Okay, question 2C. Discuss the impact of the interpretation of the external affairs power with reference to international declarations and treaties. So this is 1.8. And we are discussing. So we're going to have to give strengths and weaknesses. It's the impact we're after. Interpretation of the external affairs power. See if we can remember that. 51:29 with reference to international declarations and treaties. 6 marks, biggish question. So, probably need to lead in with explaining what this is all about. So, the government of Australia enters into agreements with other nations relating to important international issues such as human rights and environmental protections. You might like to state, you could put that through the UN or UNESCO, which is part of the UN. You could use some of those kind of examples. It, being the government, may sign international treaties which are legally binding agreements governed by internal I think that should be international law or international declarations. Governed by international law, that should be international, or internal declarations that are non-binding agreements that aim to set an intention. The signing of treaties or declarations do not automatically create laws. We know this. The government must, after the signing, go through the usual process of creating legislation. So they sign, then they have to ratify, then they have to put the bill into Parliament, go through all the steps, and it becomes a law. Okay, so the signing of the international treaty or declaration in itself does not legally bind anyone in Australia to do anything. The government still has to go through that process. But what we know is that the Australian Constitution gives the Commonwealth power to make those laws because of the external affairs power. How do we know that? Because the High Court was asked to examine that power and decide on how signing treaties and declarations affected the power. And how were they asked to examine this power? It was through our court case. Actually, probably should have put that up there. This question, whenever we're doing our international treaties, etc., is the Tassie Dams case. So the High Court needed to examine the power and decide on how signing treaties and declarations affected this power. How did they do that? They did that because a case was brought before them. What was that case? One significant case that forced the High Court to examine the use of treaties under the external affairs power was the Tasmanian Dams case. What happened in this case? The Tasmanian government was stopped from building the Franklin River Dam by the Commonwealth government, who claimed the area was World Heritage listed. The Tasmanian government claimed that stopping the dam from being built that building a dam was a residual power, and therefore the Commonwealth had no right to interfere. Okay, so they said that dam building was a residual power. Commonwealth had no right to interfere. It was taken to the High Court. The High Court decided that the Commonwealth government was able to intervene. Why? Because the area of law in question was protected under the treaty. Sorry, that should be the area. I think that actually means the area means the river was protected under the treaty, the signing of the Environment Treaty, and the words external affairs included in international treaties. Okay, so that's the crux of it here, that the High Court decided because of this case that even though all it says in the Constitution are 2 words, external affairs, they interpret that to mean international treaties. So anything that is foreign affairs, international is external affairs. So this outcome then set the precedent for the interpretation of the Commonwealth Parliament external affairs lawmaking power to include any areas of law that were covered by international treaties. Because of Section 109, the Constitution states that valid Commonwealth law overrides state law as far as inconsistency. The Commonwealth was able to prevent the Tasmanian government from building the dam. Okay, so Section 109 comes into play there. And there was one other thing I was going to mention. Must not have been that important because I can't remember what it is. Okay, hopefully, again, looking very messy, but hopefully that helps you to be able to discuss the impact of the external affairs power, Section 5129, in relation to international declarations and treaties, which is, actually, that's what I was going to say down here, which is that the Commonwealth, the High Court has said that the Commonwealth does have, the Commonwealth Parliament does have lawmaking power in this area, in the area of international treaties because of external affairs, which means that residual powers are overridden. Okay? Hope that helps.